Hello and welcome to another installment of... Yeah, that happened. Where I tell you a tale that happened to me. Or did it? Nah, everything you're about to hear is true, but what will you believe? This isn't really a fun story, but it is one that... I don't know, it's kind of funny. Okay, not really. But, as some of you know, I wrote a book that is mostly a collection of weird, abusive shit that my mother did to me while I was growing up. Here's one of them. I was roughly 8 when this happened. Derpy little 8-year-old me only had, 3 friends? And they usually got rides home from my mom, who would pick me up after school. School lets out one day, as it usually does, thank God. And we're just standing around waiting for my mom. About 10 minutes in, I'm like, okay, maybe she's late. It happens. But she had never been late before. Sometimes she would be parked off to one side, waiting to pick me up. Other times I would be standing there for a minute or two and she would be trundling up the, street in order to pick me up. But either way, no mama. Anyway, my 2 friends, 2 nice young dudes, were just standing around, wondering, okay, where is she? No need to panic yet. 15 minutes later, most of the kids had left. 30 minutes in, one of my friends has his older sister come up and be like, where the hell were you? And drag him away. So, one down. The other one went, fuck this, I'm going home, essentially, and just kinda left me there. So at that point, I'm all alone. For those of you wondering, well, where was your dad? His job was a government job and it required him to travel a lot, so I only saw him on weekends, and obviously school was not in session on a weekend unless we're in some sort of weird bizarro world bullshit, but there I am, alone, just standing there. I start crying after 45 minutes. I was already in a panic, trying to figure out, oh god, what happened to my mom? Where's my mommy? I am a frightened little 8-year-old. Thankfully, the crossing guard noticed something was up, and she's like, hey kiddo, are you okay? And I'm like, my mom is not here yet. She's like, okay, hang on, honey. And she walks over. There were no kids at this point except for me. She walks over to the, I don't know what you call them, but it was the teacher who stands there and watches the kids leave. Crossing guard goes over to her, says something. Kid watcher comes over to me and is just like, let's go to the main office, honey. You're not in trouble, but we're gonna keep you inside until we can find your mommy, okay? Okay. So there I am, just sitting there in the main office. The secretaries are like, okay, we're gonna call the home phone and see what happens. At this point, it's like 4 o'clock. No one's super concerned. They're concerned, but they're not worried. And they're just like, Miss So-and-so, this is Secretary 1 from elementary school. Your child is still here, and we have been trying to get in contact with you. Please call us back at this number. Have a wonderful day. Click. They wait 20 minutes. Every phone call brings up and dashes all hope. 'Cause it ain't my mama. It ain't mama. Where's my mommy? Was sort of becoming a inner mantra. Now, I already had a lot of issues as a kid, and I was starting to panic. Like, really hard, oh my god, I'm gonna be stuck here forever kind of panic. The, oh my god, what if my mom is dead kind of panic. The secretaries were doing their best to calm me down, but after 5 o'clock rolled around, they're like, okay, something's up. The head secretary, who also happened to be I don't know what she was, but she apparently had the authority and approval in situations like this to take a child home with her in the event that a parent could not be found. You know, so kiddo didn't go home and end up finding their parent dead on the floor or some horrifying bullshit like that. I don't know. But about 6:30 rolled around and I'm like, she's never coming to get me. 3 hours is a lot of time when you're a scared child. Like me. I'm still a scared child, I just have an adult body. I think we're all scared children with adult bodies. But anyway, no mama. The principal decides to call. Maybe his loud booming voice will jostle her. Miss So-and-so, this is Principal Blah from elementary school. Please call us back as soon as you can. It's around 7 o'clock at night. Our number is this. Have a wonderful day. Click. He's worried. Now, the principal at that school was a very chill, very friendly dude. He and my mother were friends. That's the problem with having a narcissist as a parent. She was friends with everybody. And because of that, they didn't see the shit she was doing when they weren't looking. But that's not what we're talking about right now. We're talking about the fact that it was 8 o'clock at night by now, and no one knew where the fuck my mom was. They called her cell phone multiple times. They called the house phone multiple times. I didn't know my dad's number, and for some reason he wasn't listed. And there wasn't much he could do anyway, considering he was in Rome. Why Rome? I don't know. Ask the government. And then, as I'm doing my homework and trying not to have another mental breakdown, the 5th one that day, mind you, I go, my next door neighbor goes here. She's in the AM kindergarten class. She started this year. Maybe we can call her daddy and have him look in on my mama? And they're like, okay, we don't have any other fucking option except for calling the police. I don't know why they didn't call the cops. Maybe it wasn't serious enough. Maybe they didn't call the cops because they didn't want to get their friend in trouble. I don't know. It was a long time ago. But they managed to call him and he picks up like 2 rings later. They explain the situation, and 15 minutes later, in comes my disheveled, hungover, still kinda high, red-eyed, horrified-looking mama. She took me home, and immediately went back to fucking bed. I was on my own for dinner, but at least I was home. I had French toast. I kinda had to learn to cook at least some basic stuff in order to not fucking die. 'Cause she was either drunk, or giving me fast food. Roughly a decade later, I actually get to talk to the man who knocked on my front door in order to figure out where the hell my mom was. And I go over to him and I go, I don't do that, but I go, this is really out of the blue, but really curious about this. And he's like, what's up? And I look at him and go, do you remember when your oldest kid started kindergarten and you got a phone call from the school to check on my mom? Oh yeah, I remember that. That was scary. When they told me that you had been there for 5 hours, I didn't know what to do. I offered to take you home to stay the night with us if we couldn't figure out what was going on. And I'm like, so what happened exactly? I let him know I already know about her drinking problem. How bad was it when you finally got her to answer the door? And he just has this, it wasn't a look of pity so much as it was empathy? Sympathy? It wasn't pity. But there was something there. I'm bad at reading faces. I'm bad at reading people. But the look he gave me just said, "Aw, jeez, I didn't think I'd have to talk about this. But I will." My neighbor told me that after pounding on the front door for 20 minutes, and hearing our very vocal chocolate lab going off, along with him after he started knocking. My mother opened the door, and she was drunk. She was drunk. According to him, she stank of weed, which wouldn't surprise me because she was a heavy pot smoker, as well as a drinker. He was just like, oh, holy shit. And according to him, for about 2 or 3 minutes, he had to explain the situation a couple of times in order for her to understand what was going on. He offered to go get me on her behalf and bring me home, and she's like, no, oh my god, my poor baby, oh my god, or some shit. According to him, she broke down crying, grabbed her keys, stumbled to the car not wearing shoes, wearing the same dress she had been wearing for 5 days straight, as is customary, and came and got me. And I'm just standing there looking at him, and I say, yeah, that was bad. He's giving me that look again, just kind of crosses his arms and says, we were worried. When she wasn't answering, I told my wife that if I came back to the house and your mom didn't answer, that we were going to have to call the police. Kiddo, she wasn't answering the door, and we didn't know your dad's cell number, and we didn't know what to do. I thanked him for being a good neighbor and a good person, and told him that I had decided after multiple incidents in the same vein of what happened that my mom and I were no longer on speaking terms. I pet the cat that was his cat that was winding around my legs the entire time we were talking, and I went home. So, yeah. That happened. If you would like to see what kind of shenanigans I get up to when I'm not on YouTube, you can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.